before the video starts, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and it's only going to help us get cooler guests. Now, on to the video. Well, we're live, and we're with an absolute legend, Tommy Chong, man. How are you?
Fine, man. Couldn't be better.
Dude, I cannot believe I ended up getting you. I remember I was just online, and I was like, God, I want to invite some cool people on. I don't know who to get, and I'm like, who are some legends that I used to love as a kid? And I was like, you know what? I'll send out an email to, your manager, and I was like, I wonder if, he'd be willing. I was like, it was a throwaway bullshit. I was like, there's no way. And then he was like, yeah, he'd be down to do it. I'm like, no fucking way, dude. That's crazy.
No, since I've been, we've been locked down. I've been getting a big kick out of doing all the Zooms. I'm a comedian and part native.
Yeah.
And so storytelling is in my blood.
I love that.
Or running off at the mouth, as they would say. But it's and I'm a Canadian too.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference. How about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Jersey, man. I'm from the East Coast. We had the same problem on lockdown. That's the whole reason that I started the podcast. I enjoy talking to super interesting people. I've had friends on. I've had some celebrity chefs on, and I've just had a lot of fun learning from other people's experiences. I'm somebody who had a hard time in school because I was bored as shit. So I always learn from people's stories, life experiences, and I listen to Rogan's podcast where he talks about this, the universe and stuff, and I've always learned better that way. So I say, what's a better way of talking to people than starting a podcast, and then other people can listen to it and learn that way too.
Yeah, it's great. Communication. That's most that's the answer to everything. You got to communicate. If you don't like something, you got to let people know. And if you don't know about something, see that's what when I went to prison in 2003, I went in there more like an observer, like a reporter, embedded with the troops, sort of thing. And the first thing I learned is that you can learn more by listening than you can by talking. But once you learn it, in order to keep it fresh in your mind or to keep it alive, you got to talk it. You got to talk it through. Yeah, and that's for the longest time. I wasn't a talker. In fact, when I was in a band, I was in a Motown band, and because I was the least qualified musician to be in one, I never had a lot to say. I had a lot to learn, but not a whole lot to say. And plus, I'm with Motown, all the black guys, and by nature, if you're black growing up in the ghetto, the last thing you are, you can be shy, but it's not going to get you anywhere. And so I learned to just to listen, and boy, I learned so much. But now, I'm at that age now where people want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
And my biggest problem is that I don't know when to shut up.
Well, I think it's better to talk more than to be completely silent. Because dude, you have tons of knowledge. Your life from what because my dad always made me watch the movies, and I love the movies. I'd laugh my ass off with him. We'd watch all the old stuff, and then seeing your life through the movies and stuff like that, and then listening to some of your stories on YouTube. Dude, you have lived one fucking hell of a life from what I've seen. So hell yeah, you got some stories to tell, man. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, was you said you were in a band. is that where like you started to like get into the weed shit? Is that when you started to move into that, or was that way before then?
No, actually, I was, we came up in the 50s, and there was no weed. There wasn't even mention of weed in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I grew up.
Yeah.
That's like being in northern Texas. So I never really got turned on to weed until I was 17 years old. And I'd been a musician for quite a while. Playing with another singer, and then forming a band, and then having the first rhythm and blues band in Western Canada. And then I got interested in jazz because the jazz club was the only late night place open in Calgary, and it wasn't only open, but it was filled with jazz music and musicians and very cool people. The jazz world is so intellectual in so many ways. Everybody that knows how to play jazz usually has a very deep knowledge about life, because jazz, and what jazz really is an extension of the music experience, where you break the music down, and so you almost take tunes or music apart, and then you look at it and you learn about it, and then you put it back together. Well, when you do that with anything, one thing you get the details become very, very huge, where at one time you wouldn't even pay attention to them. But now you're breaking, say, notes down into 1/64th beats. It's all about detail. And so when you apply that kind of knowledge with life, wow. I mean, then all of a sudden, so many things that were not even on your mind, you never even thought about it, It's like dancing or marching. I was in cadets too, and like walking, you think, oh, walking, that's easy. You grew up, you learn how to walk. But when you have to learn how to march in step with other people, now you really have to concentrate. You have to learn. And again, you're talking about detail. And so when I had that experience, being in the jazz club, first of all, listening and liking what I heard, and then there was a lifestyle. There was this relaxed lifestyle. It's like being in a room with a lot of people that have one thing in common, and so all the niceties become so easy, and so what happened with me, as I'm in this beautiful setting, music, late night, and there was no talking. It was a lot of listening, because that's what you do with jazz. You listen, and then as I'm, immersed into this beautiful world, a friend, it's almost like they're ordained, like an angel, came out and said, "Oh, here, I got a present for you." This bass player just got back from LA, and that was our connection with the real world, people going down to LA and then coming back to Calgary. And he brought me a joint, first marijuana cigarette I'd ever seen, touched, or felt, or anything, and a Lenny Bruce record. And he handed them both to me. He says, "This is for you." And it was like, and I hardly knew the guy. So it was an angel. We're talking angels here. And it changed my life, because right away I learned how to smoke pot. And it's funny because just recently, because I'm such a pothead or, spokesman, and I got my own line and all that stuff, I get people asking me, serious questions about pot. And this one guy, friend of mine, just recently, he started going off about indica, how he didn't like indica. And I said, why? He said, well, it's so heavy. And when I smoke, a lot of it, I tend to get paranoid. I get nauseous, all these things, And then I realized, I told him, dude, you're doing it wrong. you know, you know, the instructions on the bottle, on the package says, this is got a lot of THC in it. And it could cause confusion. I think it's the word. I says, you have to learn how to smoke like I learned how to smoke. Now, the way I learned is that I had one joint, period. And so I wasn't about to smoke it all up, and throw the roach away. No, I had no idea when I was going to get another one. And not only that, but I had no idea whether or not this really was for me. And so what I learned how to do is take a toke, light it up, take a toke, and put it out. You see, sit and wait. It's called the rat. This is what rats do when they come across food or poison or whatever, because rats are always looking to be eating something. And if a rat finds some substance that he's not sure of, he'll take a tiny little bite, and he'll swallow it and crawl off into a corner somewhere and wait to see what happens to him. Now, if it's dangerous, he'll know. But thank God he never took a lot. And if it's not, well, then he'll take another little bite and see how that works. And then eventually he'll go and demolish the whole thing. That's what you got to do with pot, because I found that you seldom get higher. But this is personal. You don't get any higher than your first or second toke.
Really?
Then after that, then you're piling on, because what happens to your body is not used to. This is what this is how the immune system works. If you're putting something in your body that your body doesn't recognize, the first thing it wants to do is expel it, get it out of the body. So that's where you get nauseous. And that's why you puke a lot of times. You throw it up right away. That's to save your thing. Like one time my brother played a trick on me, and he gave me a glass of 151 proof rum, straight.
God. Oh my God.
And he said, bottoms up. And I did. And as soon as I did that, man, I belched. I threw up on the ceiling. That's how bad it was. So my lesson to people is you respect the substance, respect weed. There's a reason why it's considered a holy substance by many millions of people on this planet, and there's a reason why it's used as a psychedelic experience, and there's a reason why artists and musicians and people around the globe use it to help their art, or their writing or whatever they're doing creatively, because it affects the brain. It goes right to the brain, and more than anything, it relaxes the brain. That's why you get that lethargic feeling, because now, boom, you're relaxed, and when you're relaxed, that's when inspiration can come out. That's when then you're no longer fearful of the ego is no longer in charge. See, the ego is is a false sense of who we think we have to be, being around certain people, you know. And that's the ego. It's a false sense of self. And so the weed eliminates that right away. And so that's why you're like laughing at stupid things, because you never really noticed them before, you know, because you're so wrapped up and worried about how you're being viewed by others. You know, it's very important to people. But when you're stoned, man, all of a sudden you're in the moment. And when you're in that moment, whoa, that moment depends on what that moment is. But you will laugh. You will laugh, because I think part of the charm of the weed is how it exposes things that you once thought were important. And now, you know, because again, it's fear. You know, people don't like to be laughed at. Why? Because it's embarrassing. You're going to bring attention to me. Oh, and then everybody's going to see my faults. Everybody's going to see what's wrong. Everybody, you know what I mean? You get this weird thing where you're worried about other people. And that's why the Bible always taught people to judge not. You see, it's so important. You know, that one commandment, it's one of the most important commandments in the whole list of them, you know. And by the way, they're commandments. They're not suggestions. You know, you know, it's not, you want to be happy, you do this. No, these are commandments. You must not. And the reason you must not do these things is to further your involvement or your growth as a human being on this planet, because we're put here for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, it's not arbitrary. You know, it's just God thinking, let him be human for a while and see how he likes that. No. What did I read? Emmett Fox said, life is consciousness. That's what life is. To be conscious. And you can be conscious in so many states, you know, but we're all learning. And the greatest thing about what I learned, you know, early is we're here to help each other, you know, to help one another. And as long as we do that, and the reason we're helping one another is it's like a family, you know, we have the same father, you know, and mother, you know, father, mother, we're here. But the tricky thing is, and it's hard to come to grips with this, because you're in the middle. See, you're in the middle of a conversation, or you're in the middle of a search, or you're in the middle of a project. You don't want to be interrupted, you know. And so a lot of people seemingly are on the wrong path to you. Say we're more enlightened than others, and like say the vaccinators, people that are vaccinated, you know.
Yeah.
Rather than to look down on them or frown on them or that, understand them
Totally
because it's not a matter of do as I say, you know, not as I do, although it is. It's a matter of personal growth, you know, and so what I learned is that you have to, when you look out for others, you're really looking out for yourself, because what you see in others, they don't see. You know what I mean? Like if someone's walking across the street and there's a car coming, you see it, they don't. And they don't know that they're in danger, and you do. And then you help them get out of the way, you know. And now they may not like you for it. You know, you might have jarred them out of some weird thing that they're in, and at first they might, or if the danger disappears so fast, they may look at you like, "What's wrong with you? Leave me alone." That kind of thing. So, so what I mean by helping others, because we're from the same source.
Yeah.
And think of this. This is what I've been pondering for a while now. We are eternal beings. You know, when the scientists look at, they tell you that every drop of water that's ever been on Earth since its inception is still here.
Whoa.
In one form or another. Now, why would water be any different from any other material? It's not. Everything that's been here since the beginning is still here in one form or another. Nothing really disappears. It just changes appearances. That's who we are. We are eternal beings. And so a lot of people, let's say like myself, or not a lot of people, but some people are given that knowledge, or they attain that knowledge. That's why if you see gurus from India or China, or anywhere where they're gurus, or the ancients, that know the secret, they have one thing in common. You know what that is?
No idea.
They all laugh. They all giggle. They all have it's like a cosmic giggle. Because you ask questions and they go. And the reason they giggle is because they know, but they can't tell you. Because you have to learn yourself, It's like trying to describe someone, well, like people always ask me, when I was in prison, when I got out there, I say, what's prison like? And the answer that came to me was, you'll find out. And the reason is that if we're eternal beings, we're going to experience everything, bar none, everything.
Yeah,
because
I can see that.
What happens when we die? Do we disappear? Our body does eventually, but our soul, no. And I figured something else out. I gotta tell you, I'm thinking. No, I gotta tell you, because I'm a big mouth.
I gotta hear it. I want to hear it so bad. I'm so intrigued right now, because as somebody who's only 24, these are the questions that a young person is going to be asking all the time, especially me.
I know. Okay. In the physical world, every action has a reaction.
Yes.
Okay. So you can't have one without the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So therefore, everybody can't be so-called good or decent. Because if everybody was good or decent, there would be nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
There'd be no contrast. There'd be nothing. You just are. Boom. Yeah. You just are. That kind of explains racism too, because there are white people that have been only been around whites, and if they've been around, let's say, black people in a subservient manner, then they feel entitled that they're much better than, they're human, and everybody else isn't. But that's not right. That's not
at all.
but you can't have one without the other. Yeah. And so you can't have up without down. You can't have good without bad. And so you can't have knowledge without ignorance. You got to have it. Now check this one out. And everything's opposite. So what is the opposite of everything?
Say nothing, right?
That's right. My theory now is that heaven is the nothing,
Huh.
whereas the universe and the physical world is everything.
Yeah.
It's endless. Heaven is the opposite of that, which is smaller than you can imagine how tiny it was compared to where we are now.
Yeah.
But if you're there, then it is everything. I don't know if you can grasp that,
It's so
but
hard to think about what nothing can be. Like, is it
that's right.
just? Oh my god, bro! What the fuck? Oh, that just hurts my brain to think about that.
I know, but think about it. Think about it because, again, physical is everything, spiritual is tiny nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
So, so they tried, they tried experiments when people died. They would weigh them, have them on a scale, and when the soul left, they tried to figure out by the absence of the soul if there was any substance to it. Well,
Yeah.
of course, there is none. There's none. There's absolutely none. No more than with the airwaves, or like what we're doing. Look what we're doing now. I'm talking to you on a telephone.
Yeah.
Now, in this little phone is my entire life. Is everybody's entire life on this planet. There's all this knowledge is in this little phone. Plus all my music, all my pictures, all my everything. All my letters, everything is in this little tiny little phone. And the reason it's as big as it is so that as humans we can handle it. We can see it. But in reality, it could be smaller than a microbe,
Yeah.
because that's the nature of the planet we live in. This is the nature of our existence. It's crazy, but it's the intelligence, see the thought, and that's why I've been contemplating the fact that each human, we're eternal beings,
Yeah.
but in the scope of size, we're the size of a thought. That's how we are. We are. That's the size of a thought. And a thought can only be measured in milligrams of time. But being eternal, see, that's why we are eternal, because there's nothing to wear out. There's nothing to have to replace. There's nothing. Nothing is nothing.
Yeah. Like, God, it's so. Now, are these thoughts like relating back to the marijuana? Is this like thoughts that you've had? Because whenever I smoked, right? Whenever I, because what you're telling me is I smoked weed wrong my entire life. And honestly, I agree because I've had that anxiety. And when you told me about respecting it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because I have panic attacks when I do it, I'm assuming the wrong way. But when I did have those moments where it worked, I felt more connected and understanding than anything because it brought it, all that anxiety was away. All the other stuff that was messing with my head went away, and I was able to open up myself to, I guess you could say, like, I would be able to understand nothingness more than I could in my current state, or understand what the universe is.
Yeah, because the body itself is trying to protect you from foreign objects, foreign substances. And the minute you do too much of anything, it reacts. Like if you eat too much food, even though it tastes good, you pack on the weight, you pack on the pounds. And if you don't want the weight on there, quit eating, and you lose all the pounds. It's very simple. There's nothing. And I also noticed, as I'm getting older, see, but in my mind, I'm getting younger, because I don't have any external worries,
Yeah.
Like when people say this lockdown, it's terrible. I guess to a lot of people, I guess it is. You make a living, say, selling booze, and they close the bars. Well, to me, I've always, whenever I got fired, I felt like someone opened the cage and let me out, and I'm free, Like I got fired from Motown. I got fired from a lot of things. I got fired from my own band. You know? I did. I did. I was I was in Motown. I was trying to get a green card because I've been deported a few times out of because not having the proper papers.
Yeah.
And so, but in order to get a green card, I had to do a meeting, and it was in the middle of a gig, and so I had to tell the road manager of the gig. I said, "Listen, I got to miss this particular job. I'm going. I wasn't the best guitar player in the world. I was a backup guitar player, and the good musicians were there. They weren't going to miss me. But this road manager, again, another angel. He took offense. He said, if you leave, you're fired.
Wow.
Just like that. And he was just hired on as a road manager by Barry Gordy. To look after us more than anything, not to fire us.
Yeah.
But the big guy, he was doing his job, and so I got fired. But instead, and when I came home and I told my girlfriend, now my wife, I told her, and she said, "Oh," because when I came home from the gig early, she goes, "Oh, you're home early," and I said, "Well, I got fired." Oh, she goes, "Oh, that's good. That band sucked. Come to bed. Come to bed." I mean, I couldn't love her anymore, man. I said, "Oh man, I love this lady," and so, but it freed me because now I'm not pretending anymore. Pretending to be a guitar player because I never really intended to be in Motown.
Yeah.
We're playing in my club, and we're having a great time after hours. Perfect gig. And the Supremes discovered us, and so they said these guys are good. So they phoned Barry Gordy. Barry Gordy flew in and signed us, and so of course the singers, everybody in the band was very happy. Hey, we made it. We're in Motown. And I was one of them, I was happy too. Oh, this is great, man. Now we're going to go to Motown. But in the meantime, I had clubs and wives and kids and life and everything else. But when I got fired, it was every time I get fired, it would be like like a relief. Oh, yeah. Good. Because I've been fired. I got fired off the telephone company one time. We're digging ditches, and the guy said, "New Year's Eve is, I don't know, what is it? I forget. Anyway, New Year's Eve, and if you don't come to work the next day, you're fired." That was the thing. And we're digging ditches, thinking, "Oh man," because we're all musicians, and what it is in Canada, you can't make a living, just playing music, and so. Being a good old Canadian boy, I had to have a job. It's just normal. Yeah. In Canada, there's jobs. There's jobs everywhere in Canada. You don't go without a job unless you're lucky or go to school. So every job I got fired, it was like, oh, time for celebration. And even when Cheech quit, when he went off and did Born in East LA, without me, and that was like the end of our run as far as I was concerned.
Yeah,
because he said to me, Cheech said, "Oh, I still want to do Cheech and Chong movies, but no, you don't." Because I was always in charge, except to this Born in East LA. He wanted to be in charge,
yeah,
and the thing is, when I was in charge, he was always a star. I made sure that he was always a star. You had the best lines, everything. I mean, that was the magic of Cheech and Chong. And then when he gets a chance to do a movie, I'm cut out. It's not. He never had a part for me. He had a part for me playing a cop. And it was like, what is this? But then I come to realize that Cheech and Chong really was my baby.
Yeah.
I created it. Cheech wasn't even calling himself Cheech. I had to ask him what his nickname was, and then he said Cheech, and then I said, "Oh, okay, perfect, Cheech and Chong." So, but you learn in life that especially if you have a goal. Now, my goal really was to basically do things to help others. I've been like that all my life. Not that I'm any kind of a martyr, but it just appeared to be, this is my job, not to be the front man, but to be the guy that's helping the front man. To be behind the scenes. Like I did with Cheech and Chong. Cheech, everybody thought he was the funniest of the two, and he was the instigator, and he was the guy. I was the instigator. He was like the guy driving the car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was the driver, and I was along for the ride. Sort of thing. So that's what I learned early in life. That joy comes from helping others, and now we're at the point now where I can parlay this attitude into something bigger, because what I did and what we did with the pandemic, with what's going on, is it showed priorities. The pandemic is a reminder that we're all the same, regardless of country, regardless of wealth, regardless of status. We all are connected. And that's why it doesn't matter where the vaccine comes from, as long as you use it.
Yeah.
But again, people that don't want the vaccine, they are necessary. Believe it or not.
Of course. I totally agree with that.
They're necessary. They're necessary. And the reason they're necessary is that if this world was perfect, it wouldn't exist. It ceases to have any use. So it's the imperfection that keeps us going. You know what I mean?
It would be boring.
Think about it. Yeah. Well, think about our life. Think about what we have to do in order to be coherent, to do what we're doing. We have to breathe every few seconds. Actually, if we're out of breath for any longer than a few minutes, we're going to die.
Yeah.
So we have to keep breathing, and then we have to keep eating. Substance. You may go a month or two, but eventually you will die if you don't get substance. We need water. We need all these physical things, and more than anything, we need companion. Yeah. We need somebody to love, and not necessarily love us. That's always nice, but it's always somebody or something to love. Because think about what people do with their lives. Whether they're collectors or creators or whatever they do with their lives. Well, Joe Rogan's a good example. Now, I know Joe. and Joe was a big fan of mine right up until I was on his show. and then and then and then he kind of quit being a fan. And he was a fan of mine because I was a comedian that had a lot of respect for people, from peers and from other comedians, And Joe, he calls himself a comedian, and so he wanted to be in that club too. He wanted to be known as that, and to some extent, he got his wish. But the truth is about Joe, he's like an MMA fighter. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
His job is to beat people in the face and get beat in the face. Okay, that
two conflicting interests.
That is not. There's no longevity with that kind of job, And there's a lot of and you go through a lot of pain, and the reward, if you're like Colin McGregor or one of those guys, is money.
Yeah,
it's money. But the last thing those MMA fighters need is money. Because they don't need money to train. They need money, to support their families and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you think of what they do for a living, then you got to have pity on Joe. because man, Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer, is a good friend of mine, and Sugar Ray, he got out of it with his brain intact.
Thank God.
Very well, he's very fast. He's fast and quick and thing. But even now, he's shown the effects of going all those rounds with all those guys. And basically, you're in a ring. Every few minutes, some guy's beating the shit out of your head, pounding you with big fists and hitting you. And you're doing the same to him. So when I hear, Joe Rogan, he's kind of like an anti-vaxxer or whatever, or a Trumpy and all that stuff. I don't take issues. I just smile and say, I know Joe. I like him.
That's so cool. The fact that I totally understand what you're saying with, we have to have people on the opposing side, because if there was no conflict, everything would just, I would say, be pointless. If everything was all, one-sided, and we didn't have evil and we didn't have good, and I'm not saying anti-vax is evil, I'm just putting it as an example of we don't have bad and we don't have good. I forgot, it was a play that I read when I was, in high school. I think it was Antigone. It's the whole quote, the big quote, the whole point of it was, if there is no evil, there is no good, and if there is no good, there is no evil. We're just living in basically a purgatory situation. You got to have that to spice it up. You got to have something to spice it up. You got to have somebody conflicting with somebody, or you have to have, that mixture, man, that makes things interesting. Life is all about being interesting, and from what I've seen so far, and I'm young, I haven't had the experiences you've had. You've had 10 times more experiences. My dad's only 45, and I look at him and I hear his experiences, and I'm like, dude, I thought I have a lot of life under my belt from 25, 24 years. And I'm like, I don't know shit, man. I don't know anything about life. He tells me stories from when he was a kid, and I'm like, you went through that? I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought I went through some crazy shit in college. And he's like, dude, you don't understand what you have left. He's like, no matter what age you reach, I will still have that on you until, I'm gone, and then you're in my place. And then you'll tell your kids or whoever your stories, and they'll understand what you went through. And I love that. I love that aspect of it, because when I talk to older people about some of the things that I'm afraid of, and they tell me that they're not afraid of, I just stop, and I don't understand how they're not afraid of the unknown. But like you just went on and saying that we're eternal. One of my biggest fears was, when still is, was the thought of death and all those things. And that's something that I think about sometimes that gives me anxiety and stuff. But then when I always talk to older people, like people who have gone through life and people who have gone through change and stuff, and I always ask, do you fear, death? Do you fear the unknown? 99% of them will tell me, honestly, no. I as I've gotten older, I understand that there is more to life than just life. There are other things to come. It comes to the same conclusion that we are eternal. There is something about us that's eternal. And it's so hard to wrap my mind around that because I'm young, and that's where it starts to come into, wow, I don't know anything about this stuff.
Well, the truth, that's the beauty of youth, is innocence. See, that's a beauty, and it's so beautiful that we're experiencing this, and the beautiful thing is it never stops. Eternity. Think about it. It's a long time. It's a long time. When you look out, like I'm a big Hubble fan, of the stars and everything,
Yeah.
And the galaxies, and when you look out and you see the little twinkling little star, well, that could be a galaxy with a gazillion stars and planets and comets and that swirling around, but we only see it as a little pinpoint of light. But that, and then you think about, especially when you like I'm reading, I don't have it here, Emmett Fox. If you get a chance, check out Emmett Fox. He's on line. You can Google him, and he's a great teacher. And God, I can't believe that. I think he died in 51 or something like that. Because when you read it, it's like you're reading. He wrote it yesterday.
Really,
everything. Oh God, because what he did, he's I'm quite sure he was a Jewish scholar that took the Christian Bible and sort of translated it into what we know now, the King James version or whatever, that Bible. But what he did, he took the words, and then made them simple, and they made everything make sense, Just like what religion are you? Or
I'm more or less. I went to Catholic school, but I've always been somebody who read. I'm interested in religion. I've never said I was any religion, but I've always read into multiple religions because.
But you went into Catholic school.
Yes, okay. I was in Catholic school for football. Yeah.
Okay, now think about this. The Catholics worship a young Jewish guy that was murdered back in the day. They have him on a cross, and they what the Romans did, really, they co-opted Christianity because apparently it was more popular than their religions, or who were there, worshiping Baal or whatever they were worshiping, and the Jews, they could never move the Jews, because the Jews really were the first to recognize the power of one God, and so the Catholics, bless their souls, especially the Romans, because they figure, the guy we strung up on the cross, there's their God. There he is. He's got everything. See, because back in the day, they used violence as a revenge. It was all about revenge. Like the Sikhs, if you ever go to a Sikh temple, you'll see big pictures of people being tortured, being ripped apart by elephants, and boiled in oil and everything else. And what it was is that's how the Sikhs were treated back in the early days. That's because back in the day, a sword, lived by the sword. Think about what a sword is. A sword is a big ass long knife that is just meant to do one thing: kill, kill, kill whatever's in its way. you know, you know. And so when they talk about living by the sword, they weren't. It wasn't like a verb. It was like a real thing.
Yeah.
You did, and if you stepped out of line, you could die. Well, shit, in Japan, if you looked at the emperor, you could get your head cut off just for looking at the guy.
What?
Yeah, yeah. That's why they always bow. That's why they put their head down. You were not supposed to. You're not put your eyes on certain royalty. That's why it's ingrained in some of our attitudes. I think it comes from those days. Because if you were in the royal anything, you had domain over the peasants and people that you ruled. And if they pissed you off for any reason, the Japanese used to test their swords on peasants.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Let's try it. Hey, come here, bro. Whack. Yeah, because back in the day and today, like the Indian in India, they have the Untouchables, which is a caste of people that deal with dead people or deal with anything, clean out toilets, do the shitty jobs. And they're called the Untouchables because they've been reincarnated back into this life again and they're going through their karma thing, and then they will eventually evolve upwards, and it's the same all over humanity. But what Jesus taught. Now, remember, as a Catholic, you got to always remember that Jesus was a Jew. He was never a Christian. He was a Jew, and he railed against the Jewish traditions of money changing or collecting money to go to temple. You see, that was a problem for him and his followers. And by the way, John the Baptist, I did some soul searching on John the Baptist. His job was really making sure that the homeless and the travelers got to bathe. Got to have water to bathe their dirty asses. And then of course the Christians, everything become holy. Like all of a sudden baptism went from washing your feet to having the soul of God somehow. A little drop of water in your forehead, and all of a sudden you can be transformed into born again. That's the phrase. Born again really is just having a new idea.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. You just got a new idea. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Put some water on me. Let's see.
Eternal life. That really explains everything, because then there's no mistakes. And when you look at our life on earth here, when there's the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. Our Father who art in heaven. Actually, check out Emmett Fox when he does a whole thing about the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. That is the perfect prayer, by the way. It is the perfect prayer, and it was written by the holy man, because when every word has meaning. Our Father who art in heaven. Our Father, first of all, our Father. That's everybody on the planet. Yeah. Every living creature, every living substance on the planet has the same Father, the same Creator, who art in heaven. He's not on earth. He's in heaven.
Yeah.
Hallowed be thy name. Think about it. I've been doing a whole thing about the holiest word in the human language is God. No matter how you spell it or how you say it or how you use it, that is the most powerful word on the planet is God. The word God.
Of course.
You think about it. We've got this country is founded on the Bible. With your hand on the Bible, swear to God to uphold this union, this great union. So God, the word God has power. But the thought of God has power. And that's what I've been telling people. You can't have two thoughts in your head at the same time. And if you're the least bit, say, depressed or anything wrong with you, be it a terminal illness, be it a loss of fortune, loss of a love, loss of a loved one, whatever it is, when you turn to God, He's not going to fix anything. He's not going to do anything. All it's going to do is soothe your mind. And when you calm your mind, and when you have the word, the thought of God in your mind, then it's like an app on your phone. You hit the right app on your phone, everything is going to happen for you. You hit the wrong one, nothing happens for you.
Yeah.
So when you hit the God app in your soul, in your consciousness, miracles have to happen, and they do happen. And I do it all the time. I tell people all the time, I lose my phone, I think, at least once or twice a day. I go somewhere. Oh, where's my phone? Oh shit, where did I leave it? And a lot of times I'll be holding it in my hand, saying, "Oh shit, where's my phone?" And I'm looking at it. So what I do, I invoke God. In fact, I have a conversation. I'll say, "Okay, God, where's my phone?" And it shows up. And you can do that with anything in your life. With a loss of a loved one, like my brother, we were close because there was only him and I and my sister, and it was my brother all my life. And then all of a sudden I got a word that he's dying, and so I went to Vancouver, Victoria, and I was with him. Not the moment he died, but I was with him the moment just before he died. And I wasn't sad. I wasn't, I was, I don't know what the feeling was, because, he lived a good life. He didn't look old. He still had black hair. He was like the bouncer at the nightclub, so he could take up a couple of guys at the same time. He was a pretty rugged individual. He played industrial league hockey. That's how tough he was. And so when he died, I had this mixture inside me, because I knew he was going, and I knew he was going, to start over again, and I knew all that, but I still felt this emptiness, this sadness. And then I'm on the plane. Was it on the plane? Yeah, it was. No, that's when his adopted son sent me a text saying that he passed.
Yeah. And
then, but instead of sadness, I felt this joy. It was like he touched my heart with this feeling. It's almost indescribable. It's so beautiful. It was such a beautiful feeling, and that was it. That was it. After that, I couldn't be sad. It was his time, and but we're connected. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say, is that we're so connected. And when you meet like people, that are in the God business, so to speak, yeah, you always have, they always listen. They don't have a lot to say. That's why I know I'm not really the holy person, because I got too much. I got too much to say.
But that's perfect. I love that. Being able to talk is also, listening, they say, is a virtue, but I also believe talking and spreading knowledge and stuff like that is just, so I feel like it's just as necessary. We need people like you who are going to talk and open minds. Opening minds is the biggest thing that we need right now. Too many kids that nowadays are on their phones, social media, and they're learning from social media, which is incredibly toxic. So listening to people like you and listening to people who advocate for helping others and stuff like that, that's what's going to help lead the next generation to being positive human beings. It has to be. We need to learn as people to, I feel like there's a big divide right now, especially with people in my generation. Nobody wants to listen. Everybody wants to talk. But we need the listeners, and we need the people who are going to talk, the ones who actually have knowledge. And that's what we need. That's a big thing right now.
And what we need, I think, what we need more than anything is music.
Yes, I agree with that.
And if you notice, I remember when I was young, I got addicted to music. I started really young. I started playing in a fiddle band when I was eight years old. 8, 9, 10, 11, all right up to 16, even older. I'd play for parties, and that was the most joyful time one of the most joyful times of my life. Can you imagine a 10-year-old, well, and shy, I got pictures of myself here, and I've always been kind of shy, I was never a show off, but I could do things. And yeah, my life has been so beautiful. But again, it's because I learned early where the power lies, where the source,
Yeah.
the source. And everything in here that we go through is for a reason. A definite reason. It's a physical world, and we got to experience everything. Oh, and I want to say about the internet. Our kids today. I got a little granddaughter. She's a year and 2 months old.
Yeah.
She knows how to use my phone.
That scares me, man. That scares the hell out of me. A year and a couple months? What? Oh my God.
And when I say use my phone, she when I see her, I carry my phone in a case around my neck, and she sees my face, she smiles, and then she looks for my phone. And what she does, she gets the phone, and then she does her finger. She knows how to scroll.
Dude, what the hell?
And she's just looking at the funny pictures, and then sometimes she'll do a video of herself. I got some videos that she took of herself. She has no idea. She's looking at the phone, but she treats the phone with respect. She knows better. That age. They're first. They love to throw things.
Yeah, of course.
You get them some toys. They're throwing everything. It's a power trip. But see what's happening now? These babies, they have no idea. And they'll never know what I went through when I was a kid, what you went through when you were a baby. No idea. No idea, because this is their life. This is their time. And that phone, that's why I have no problem letting her play with my phone, even though she'll scrabble up, because it's really her phone. It's not my phone. It's her phone. That's her life. Isn't that something? I mean, our kids, they like going to school. the first thing, she's got a little sister, 8 years old. Oh man, I mean, they're so advanced compared to the other generation in so many ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's so beautiful. The world that they're going to get, they thank God they won't know ours. Now we'll be nostalgic. We'll be going, oh, I remember this, I remember that, and the kids will be like us with our parents. They're sort of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's
That's
good,
what
that's
scares me
cool.
now. That's what scares me. I'm starting to get to an age like where I'm at. I'm like, oh my god, I'm only in my 20s, and I look back and I'm like, I look at my little sister, and my sister's 17, and I even look at hers, and I'm like, oh wow, I
Yeah.
remember when I was that age, and I didn't have this and that. I'm like, oh my god, what's happening, man? Time is going so fast. Oh my god. Well, I know that we don't have. I know that we only had like an hour, but would you be able to answer a few questions I had from
Sure,
Instagram? All right, so
sure.
I had some people ask me some questions for you, and I figured I'd ask. It's not too many. I think it's just a few of them. I know that. But all right. So the first question I had, of course, was what's your favorite strain of marijuana, if you have one?
Uh, I haven't found it yet.
Not yet.
No, I'm still looking.
As someone as experienced as you, and you still haven't found it. Jeez.
No,
There
no,
must be some
no.
kind of magical something out there for you. And I
There
know.
must be. There must be. I'm waiting. I'm still looking though. But I'm testing. I'm testing every day.
So you
I'm
do.
on
So
my
you
job.
do. You do smoke every day.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So is there a reason why? Is it just because it'll? Is it for relaxation or?
It's an addiction. I'll admit that I am addicted to weed. Have been
Yeah.
mentally and physically. The physical part is great because I'm a bodybuilder too. So I can deal with pain, you
Yeah.
know, and the pain of not having something is also something that you can deal with.
Of
I
course.
went through 3 years in prison without any. Well, 3 years, 1 year probation, 1 year, 9 months of prison, and then another year of probation, and I had no problem not
Really.
smoking,
Oh
not
wow.
smoking because the mind is incredible. And then again, I've got that secret app, that I use, and so I'm good to go,
Yeah, you're good
no
on that
matter
one.
what.
So,
Okay, what?
next one is actually I wrote this one because I was curious. So, as a comedian, how do you feel about being a comedian in today's society when it comes to like PC kind of stuff? Like sometimes I feel like comedians walk on eggshells. From your time, that was different, I'm assuming, right?
No, we were always there was always mores that you can't areas that you cannot go into,
Really?
and yeah, always. And if you did, again, it's comedy is a bit like martial arts. You know, you got to feel out your audience, and then you got to see what they respond to. And sometimes it's you can't categorize. That's where people make mistakes with comedy. They think that it's written in stone. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's flexible. It's like water. If anything, it's like water, where it'll take whatever shape it has to in order to get its point across. The comedy. You see, you can't be funny unless you're likable. and if, yeah, sometimes if your shtick is not being likable, to some people, like being the rebel, and that it's short lived.
Yeah.
It'll work for a while, but like Sam Kinison, for instance, Sam Kinison, a lot of his humor was almost like insulting people, and it's gone, dead. I don't ever hear people quoting Sam Kinison.
Yeah.
or saying, oh yeah, because his thing was screaming at people and it's basically being a real jerk, but being so audacious about it that everybody wanted to see it again. I mean, Trump. Trump's a good example.
Yeah.
Trump's is a good example of, of watching a guy take advantage of people that were about as dumb as he is, and it's like, they're not going to go down in history. George Carlin, on the other hand, George Carlin was a thinker. He was also a good piano player. A lot of people don't know that he played piano in a band originally, but George ended up being the problem that I had with George was that he never went through the whole metamorphosis. He never evolved. He never got out of that shell. And saw the light. You see, but and comedians like David Chappelle. David Chappelle is incredible.
Yeah.
Because he's not only a thinker, but he sees the irony in so many things, and he really good. Same as Chris Rock. Chris Rock is another, thinker. And because of who they are, they could come from there. What was the original question, by the way?
It was about how do you feel about comedy in the PC culture today, like with how strong PC is, like political correctness. You think that it evolves, and like you said, I like the analogy of like the water, like it'll adapt to what the current situation is. Did you ever have interactions? One of my favorite comedians of all time, and it's interesting you say about likable people, was Robin Williams. Like, I feel like that's one of the most likable people, and I didn't even know he was a comedian until my dad showed me his stuff, and he was hysterical. I didn't really know much about him. I couldn't believe how funny he was.
Robin Williams' biggest problem was that he would adopt, not just adapt, but he would adopt another comedian's whole act.
Really?
Basically, because he was so good at remembering and getting the humor, and he did that with Jackie Mason. Jackie Mason, the great Jewish comedian. Now, Jackie always had problems because people are always stealing his bits. Because I love Jackie Mason. He was one of my favorite comedians because he was real. He'd get pissed off. He didn't just act pissed off. He would be pissed off. And Robin Williams, he got sued. Jackie sued him.
Really?
For stealing his bits. Jackie was Jackie was a rabbi originally, and then he became this incredible, funny, observational Jewish comedian. Great. I met Robin Williams one time, and Robin, again, he was a big fan of Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a fan of us personally. He was a fan of us professionally.
Yeah.
Because we come along past everybody, did movies. Next thing, we're starring in movies. And that was very unheard of. Still is. No one's ever matched what Cheech and Chong did.
Yeah.
On the screen. And one time we were shooting next movie, and I was the director, and I noticed there's a guy. We had a tractor trailer pulled up to the set because we had a lot of the musical equipment was shipped in for the music store scene. And I noticed someone in the back. So I went and had a closer look, and it was Robin Williams. It was when he was with Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
And what Robin was doing, he wanted to see firsthand how we did the movies.
Really?
Yeah. And so he snuck in the back. He got him. He snuck in the back, and he was watching there. because Robin was he was a product of the proper way to do things, as opposed to Cheech and Chong. We carved our own niche.
Yeah.
We made our own movies. And that Robin, he became very, big, very popular on the Tonight Show, for instance. We were never on the Tonight Show. They were too afraid of us. Yeah, of what we would do. And rightly so. I don't blame them. And I never did want to go straight. In fact, that's when Cheech and I Cheech always wanted to go straight. And when we got offered to do a Disney movie, the Lion King, I turned it down.
Really?
And Cheech never. Cheech did it with Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, I turned it down because I thought, and I still think that Cheech and Chong it was greater than Disney. Disney took other people's work and other people's art and did a thing, and they had the code, the so-called code, and at one time they barred people like Cheech and Chong from their amusement park.
What?
We weren't allowed in there if you had long hair and if you had some sort of subversive thing on your T-shirt.
Oh my God, did not know that.
Oh no, you were barred. You get kicked out of Disneyland. And so I didn't. I was never a big fan, but Robin Williams, a genius, a comedic genius, by all means, But he had his problems. Obviously he had his problems.
Like everybody said, like you said, there's always not everybody. Everybody's human. Everybody's got their problems, which is
everybody's gonna.
In your industry, in comedy, is it? I hear a lot about people stealing stuff. Is it a close community or is it more of an aggressive community where,
Well, what's that saying where they say, hacks borrow, geniuses steal.
That makes sense.
Everybody steals.
Yeah.
Or borrows. You can borrow it, use it. Everybody. Eddie Murphy. Let's see. Bill Cosby was talking bad about Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor because they would use the N-word and they would use a lot of profanity in their act. But look who ended up in jail for being a pervert. So yeah. The job of a comedian, as far as I'm concerned, is to make people laugh. And if you can do that, however you do it, you've done your job. Sometimes it's hard, you go watch the Carol Burnett show, I've always loved the Carol Burnett show, but when Cheech and Chong came out, Carol Burnett stole one of our bits. and it was a compliment. It was anytime people use your stuff, it's a compliment.
Yeah, your stuff was good enough to make it, and that's what I've had my problems with depression and stuff like that. And something that I love about comedians, right? I went to AC with my dad recently, and I wasn't having the best time. I was feeling a little bit down. We went to go see Bill Burr in
Oh yeah,
bro. I was laughing so hard, and in that hour and a half segment or whatever, that's what I like about the comedians is that you just kind of lose yourself. It's kind of like marijuana in a way. It's like you're relaxed. You're opened up and you enjoy. You just turn off the world and you're just there to laugh. And the laughing, and when you talked about how all these leaders and open-minded people, they all laugh. I don't have that yet, but the fact that laugh from a comedy show where you just kind of like, you laugh a little bit, you feel good, you feel relaxed. Laughing is, I think, one of the greatest gifts humans have. Being able to just
Totally. Because what you're doing, you're acknowledging eternity. That you're acknowledging it. Because you lose track of time. You see, and same as weed. You lose track of time. And why do you lose it? Because you're in the middle of the moment.
Yeah.
You're right there. There's no time. When you're in the moment, it's eternal. You're there. It's where you're supposed to be. This is where you're supposed to be. See? And then when you walk out of the comedy store, and then after a while, reality sets in.
Yep. And then it's heavy again. All right.
And you owe rent or whatever.
Oh, that's the word. Well, again, thank you so much for taking time out of coming on this show. My show isn't the biggest show yet. I want it to grow, and honestly, the fact that you came on is my birthday is on Friday, so this is the best birthday gift I could have.
I love it. So well, you have a happy birthday, and really use your God app. You don't have to don't tell anybody close to you or anybody. This is your own special app that you use, that you go to. And when you talk about depression, instead of going to depression, go into to your God app, and ask God, say, what do you think I should be worried about? and the answers will kill you, man.
I'm going to make sure to do that. I promise. That's something that, honestly, this is probably the best conversation I've had with somebody about problems that, we haven't even talked about my problems, but this has helped me understand why I have some of the problems. The opening up, the laughing, the keeping the God app there, not just saying, all right, I'm depressed, and then living in the moment is huge.
It's all there. It's all there. You can't be sad. I always quote Saddam Hussein when he was being executed. He got heckled. They're about to hang him, and he got heckled. And Saddam turned and looked at the guy and said, "Watch, I'll show you how a real man dies." It was like last tag.
What a laugh! That's a last. He gets the last laugh, man. He finishes it off.
Yeah. You watch. I'll show you how a real man dies.
That's so awesome. All right. Well, I gotta get you back on the show. Would you be willing to come on again someday, man?
Sure, anytime, man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I loved our time together. Thank you again, guys. A legend, Tommy Chong. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.